And joining us now, the Treasury Secretary Henry Paulson. Mr. Paulson, thank you very much for joining us this morning. Well, we have plenty of things to talk about. Housing problems, unemployment is going up. We see what's happened to these banks. We had kind of some scary pictures this week. People lined up outside that bank in California trying to get their money out. So I want to ask you, just to start, set the stage for us here. Are we in a recession? How long are these bad economic times going to go on, and when do you see some light at the end of the tunnel?
And Bob, first of all, it's good to be here. Yeah, we're going through a challenging time with our economy. This is a tough time. The three big issues we're facing right now are, first, the housing correction, which is at the heart of the slowdown. Secondly, turmoil in the capital markets. And thirdly, the high oil prices, which are going to prolong the slowdown. But remember, our economy has got very strong long-term fundamentals, solid fundamentals. And your policymakers here, regulators, we're being very vigilant.
Do you expect this to go on for a while? I mean, a lot of people say we haven't reached the bottom yet on any of this.
Well, it's going to go on for a while, and we're going to be in a period of slow growth for a while. There's no doubt about that. But we're making progress in certain areas, and in other areas there continue to be challenges, and we're very focused on.
Well, I mean, are you talking about months or years here?
Well, I think it's going to be months that we're working our way through this period. Clearly months. But remember, the long-term fundamentals are very solid.
All right, well, let's talk about what you did last week. You called a news conference last Sunday to announce a plan to shore up Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. These are the institutions that most Americans really don't know very much about. But basically what they do is make it possible for banks to loan people money and extend credit for home mortgages. You said we just simply have to make sure that these institutions survive. A lot of people in the Congress took exception. They said you're trying to use taxpayer money to bail out people for making errors that are not the fault of the taxpayers. Why was this so important, and basically what are you trying to do here?
Bob, first of all, I'm very optimistic that we're going to get what we need from Congress here, because Congress understands how important these institutions are. As you said, first and foremost, that they are responsible for funding 70% of the mortgages in this country. And a key to getting through this tough economic period is the housing correction work its way through quickly, and to be able to get housing prices to stabilize. And a key there is to have buyers come into the market, and buyers need financing. So these institutions are very important, and we had a two-part plan. First of all, temporary backstops to stabilize the capital markets and increase confidence in these two institutions. And secondly, to put in place a strong regulator, a strong independent regulator, which will put us in a much better place to have the discussion and address the risks that these institutions pose to our economy.
What does this mean to the person just sitting out there watching television and watching you on television this morning?
Well, one thing I will say, you mentioned IndyMac, and I saw those pictures on the TV of people standing in line outside of IndyMac, and I could see why people might have some anxiety. But I need to begin by mentioning that deposits are insured up to $100,000. And if you have an insured deposit, you're not going to lose a penny. No one has lost money on an insured deposit in the 75 years that the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation was in place, number one. Number two, we have a safe and sound banking system in the United States of America. We have almost 8,500 banks. We've had just about, I think it's been 5 bank failures this year. During the S&L crisis, 82 to 92, we had bank failures a year. We have a sound banking system. Our regulators are focused on it, and I think people can take confidence in that.
But we do see the number of banks that are listed as trouble banks. That list is growing longer, is it not?
Of course, the list is going to grow longer. given the stresses we have in the marketplace, given the housing correction. But again, it's a safe banking system, a sound banking system. Our regulators are on top of it. This is a very manageable situation.
You talked about regulations several times. You're calling for tighter regulations on this plan you have for Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac.
Yeah, you're very right, Bob. You know, the second part of this is having a strong regulator with real teeth, with real responsibilities and powers. And this is going to be key to putting us in a position where we can address the risks that they pose and that have been focused on. But our first priority today is the stability of the capital markets, the stability of the system. And these institutions have investors all around the world, throughout the U.S. and around the world. And those investors need to know that we in the United States of America understand the importance of these institutions to our capital markets and to our economy and to our housing market.
The New York Times, in a front page article yesterday, had a very short lead on a story about all this. It sort of summed it all up. It said, how did the economy come to be such a mess? What happened here, Mr. Secretary? Things were going along great on a lot of different fronts, and all of a sudden, here General Motors is having problems. We see unemployment going up. We see the housing market in the shape that it's in. You yourself told the columnist Paul Ignatius the other day that when you came into office, you saw some storm clouds on the horizon there. What happened here?
Well, Bob, there were excesses building for some time. We had a period of home price appreciation in this country that just wasn't sustainable. In a number of states like California and Florida and Nevada and Arizona, home prices went up 100% between 2002, and 2006. That's not sustainable. We had excesses in our capital markets, too much leverage in the system, complex financial products. But again, I want to remind people, and I'm not being a Pollyanna, I've spent a lot of time outside of this country, and the fundamental strength of the U.S. economy, and I'm talking about the long-term fundamentals, I believe they compare favorably in this country with any other developed industrial nation around the world. We've got challenges, and we're focused on those challenges. And it's going to take us a while to work through this period, but we'll work through it. We always do.
What about this whole idea of the price of energy, $4 a gallon gasoline, and it seems to be going up? Are we going to be paying $4 a gallon for a while here?
Well, Bob, this is all about the supply and demand. The supply has been relatively constant of oil and oil production capacity in the world over the last 10 years. And the demand has been going up. And there are no short-term easy answers here, but the answers are obvious ones, and that is to invest much more proactively and aggressively in supply, not just hydrocarbons, but alternative sources of energy, clean energy, and we also need to do more on the demand side in terms of conservation, in terms of efficiency, and in terms of doing away with some of the subsidies for oil around the world. But again, I think we know what to do. There just isn't a short-term easy answer here.
All right. Well, Mr. Secretary, I thank you very much for coming by this morning. We appreciate it, and I know you've got your work cut out for you. So thanks so much for joining us this morning.
Bob, thank you.